is a woodworking tool that can be used to hollow out an area on the face of a board. It can also be used to contour or shape the edge of a board. They can be handheld or table mounted.
When using a router, you should always follow these basic safety rules. 1. Make sure the router base is securely fastened to the router. 2. Be sure the router bit is inserted correctly and the collet nut is securely tightened. 3. Hold the workpiece securely either by hand or with a clamp. 4. Always route against the rotation of the bit. 5. The end grain should be routed first to avoid splintering. 6. Never leave the router unattended or hand it to someone else while in operation. It needs to be completely stopped. The collet is where the router bit is secured or attached to the router, similar to a chuck on a drill press. The bit needs to be inserted correctly and the collet nut tightened. In general, this should only be performed by the instructor. In addition to the collet nut being tightened, the depth adjustment should also be locked in place and secured. Before plugging in the router, be sure that the router switch is turned to the off position. This will prevent the router from unexpectedly turning on. Hold the handheld router securely when turning it on. Never start the router with the bit against the material. All routing should be done with the router moving against the rotation of the bit. The end grain should be routed first to avoid splintering. When you are finished using the router, be sure that it comes to a complete stop before setting it down. The router should be set on its side to prevent it from tipping over. All cables should also be wrapped up and unplugged when you are finished using them. When using a table-mounted router, your material should always lay flat on the table. Your material should also be fed against the rotation of the bit. Be sure that all guards are in place and working properly before routing. The end grain should be routed first to prevent tear-outs and will give you the best chance for a better finished edge. As always, never have your fingers in line with the cutter. When routing narrow material, it is important to always use a push stick to be sure that your fingers are never in line with the cutter.